Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most shocking stories coming out of Russia's military world. The truth about Russia's so-called superweapon warship that was supposed to symbolize Putin's naval dominance but has instead become a floating disaster. A nightmare that even Russian officials can't fully hide anymore. What was meant to be a symbol of national pride is now being called by many experts a floating Chernobyl, leaking problems and failures from every corner. The Russian Navy once promised that this warship would redefine the balance of power on the seas. It was advertised as a nuclear-powered beast capable of carrying advanced missiles, operating for decades without refueling, and surviving any attack. But behind all the propaganda and glossy presentations lies a harsh truth. The warship is breaking down, suffering from radiation risks, outdated technology, and massive design flaws that are impossible to fix without rebuilding it from scratch. When Putin unveiled the ship years ago, state media declared it to be the most powerful vessel on Earth, capable of rivaling the US Navy's most advanced destroyers. It was presented as proof that Russia could still compete militarily with NATO, even after years of economic sanctions and technological isolation. But fast forward to today, and satellite images, leaked reports, and testimonies from insiders paint a very different picture. The so-called superweapon warship has turned into a dangerous embarrassment. Inside sources from Russia's own defense industry describe constant malfunctions in the ship's nuclear propulsion system. Engineers have reportedly struggled to maintain safe radiation levels, with some even comparing the situation to a ticking time bomb at sea. Several crew members have allegedly fallen ill due to poor safety protocols, and internal communication suggests that many officers are refusing long-term assignments on the vessel. Even more alarming, international experts have warned that a serious incident on this ship could cause a radioactive leak capable of contaminating parts of the ocean for decades. Despite these warnings, the Kremlin continues to push propaganda narratives, insisting that everything is under control. Russian state media still shows the ship sailing proudly during naval parades, carefully edited to hide the real condition of the vessel. But images leaked by foreign intelligence and maritime analysts tell another story. Rusting hulls, cracked panels, and signs of radiation damage can be seen clearly in unfiltered photos. Engineers working with Russian shipyards have admitted privately that the design is outdated and impossible to modernize without starting from scratch. The original purpose of this warship was to act as a deterrent, a show of power meant to scare NATO and prove that Russia still held technological superiority in nuclear naval warfare. The ship was designed to carry hypersonic missiles, advanced radar systems, and the latest electronic warfare tools. But none of those promises were ever fully delivered. The hypersonic missile systems reportedly failed multiple tests. The radar's detection range turned out to be far below what was advertised. Even the engines, which were supposed to provide long-term power efficiency, began showing severe instability within months of operation. Russian insiders have blamed corruption and poor oversight for these problems. Billions of rubles were allocated to build and maintain the vessel, yet much of that money seems to have vanished. Contractors used cheaper materials, skipped essential safety tests, and ignored international standards. As a result, the warship became a floating monument to corruption rather than military success. What's even more concerning is the level of secrecy surrounding the entire program. Journalists inside Russia who tried to investigate the ship's real condition have been silenced or threatened. Independent military analysts who questioned the safety of its nuclear reactor were labeled as traitors. Meanwhile, Putin continues to use the ship as a symbol of national pride during televised events, parading it as if it were a masterpiece of Russian engineering. But every time it leaves port, naval experts around the world hold their breath, fearing a potential environmental catastrophe. Reports from Western intelligence agencies suggest that the warship's nuclear core might be leaking at low levels. This information has not been confirmed officially, but marine radiation monitoring systems in nearby waters have detected abnormal readings that coincide with the ship's presence. These signals are weak but consistent, suggesting long-term exposure that could grow worse if the vessel continues to deteriorate. The warship's problems don't stop with radiation. Its mechanical systems are also failing. Cracks in the hull, outdated navigation equipment, and unreliable missile systems make it nearly impossible to operate safely. Even routine training missions have been cut short due to sudden technical failures. There are even reports that Russian naval commanders quietly moved the ship to a more isolated dock to minimize the risk of accidents near populated areas.
To make matters worse, the crew morale is at an all-time low. Many sailors have reportedly asked to be transferred off the ship due to constant fear of radiation exposure and poor working conditions. Some have anonymously shared stories about the unbearable heat near the engine rooms and malfunctioning ventilation systems. One former crew member described the warship as a prison on water where everyone knows the risks, but no one dares to speak openly about them. The irony is striking. While Russia boasts about developing unstoppable hypersonic missiles and space-age technology, its most advanced warship is crumbling under its own weight. Experts point out that this isn't just a single failure, it's a reflection of a much larger problem within Russia's military-industrial system. Years of corruption, secrecy, and propaganda have left the nation's military equipment dangerously outdated. Even when they announce new technology, it often exists more in speeches than in reality. For example, the warship's nuclear propulsion was supposed to be a breakthrough, allowing it to sail indefinitely. But because of design flaws, it now requires constant maintenance and supervision. The very system that was meant to give it unlimited range has become its biggest weakness. And unlike Western navies that can rely on international partnerships and access to advanced materials, Russia's isolation due to sanctions has crippled its ability to modernize. The consequences of such failures go far beyond embarrassment. A nuclear-powered ship with decaying infrastructure poses a real threat to the environment. If a meltdown or serious leak occurred, it could contaminate large sections of the sea, affecting fishing industries, coastal cities, and marine ecosystems. Countries near the Baltic and Arctic seas have quietly expressed concern, monitoring the ship's movements closely. Some NATO members have even created emergency protocols in case of a radiation incident. Despite this, the Russian government continues to deny everything. In public statements, officials insist that the vessel remains fully operational and perfectly safe. They claim that Western media is exaggerating to discredit Russia's technological achievements. Yet, the pattern is clear. The same denials have been repeated for decades after every major Russian disaster, from Chernobyl to Kursk. The script hasn't changed, only the stage. International military analysts now see the ship as a symbol of Russia's decline. It was meant to project strength but has instead revealed weakness. Every malfunction, every repair delay, and every secret radiation alert tells the world that Russia's Superweapon era is more myth than reality. And as Western nations continue to advance their fleets with precision engineering, automation, and AI-assisted systems, Russia's navy is stuck maintaining relics from a bygone era. Even within Russia, discontent is growing among military insiders. Younger officers question why the government keeps wasting money on outdated designs instead of investing in safer, modern alternatives. Some even whisper that the warship should be decommissioned entirely before it causes a disaster. But such decisions are politically impossible for Putin, who has tied his personal image to these symbols of national power. To admit failure would be to admit weakness, something the Kremlin will never do publicly. This situation has become a dangerous mix of pride and denial. Putin's government cannot allow the public to see the truth, and the military cannot afford to fix it. So the ship remains afloat, patched, unstable, and increasingly dangerous. Every voyage it takes into open water is a gamble, not only for Russia but for the entire region. Meanwhile, the rest of the world watches closely. Western intelligence agencies track its every move, environmental watchdogs measure radiation levels, and geopolitical analysts wonder how long it can survive before something goes catastrophically wrong. It's no longer just a military issue, it's a potential global hazard. As time goes on, the costs of maintaining this vessel keep rising. Spare parts must be imported secretly or built with outdated components. Skilled engineers capable of handling nuclear propulsion are leaving the country, and sanctions make international cooperation nearly impossible. Each year that passes, the risk of mechanical or nuclear failure increases. The irony of this situation cannot be overstated. What was meant to symbolize Russian strength has become a perfect metaphor for the state of the country itself, once powerful, now fragile. Once feared, now failing under its own propaganda. Russia's Superweapon warship stands as a reminder that technology built on corruption, secrecy, and pride can never endure. For ordinary Russians, the truth is kept hidden. They are shown images of parades, missiles, and patriotic speeches, but never the leaking pipes, corroded reactors, or terrified sailors. For the global audience, however, the cracks are clear. The myth of invincibility has been shattered. What remains is a dangerous relic floating in denial. So, as we look at this story, one thing becomes clear. This isn't just about a single warship. It's about the crumbling foundation of a system that values image over safety, power over truth, and propaganda over progress. Russia's superweapon is falling apart, both literally and symbolically. And while the Kremlin continues to insist that it's all under control, the ocean tells another story, one of decay, danger, and denial. Thank you for watching till the end. If you found this breakdown informative, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into global military developments and hidden stories the mainstream won't show you.